I'd like to call this meeting to order. First off, just want to extend a special welcome to all those visiting and here from the public. So grateful that you're with us tonight on this beautiful evening at this beautiful location. My name is Alex Hackman, Chair of the Commission for Parks and Rec, and as far as the first item, or second item, actually, we'll go back to the first. We'll give some time to Julie for just some overall kind of summary of events and how the evening will go, and then we'll continue through the agenda.
Great. So I have a couple of announcements for everyone, including commission members. First of all, you're on live mics for the first time. I think that you've been on for a while, so be aware of that it is live so both the public can hear and so that it gets caught on the camera so they can hear what you say on the camera. Secondly, the reason Alex and I are sitting so close together is so the camera can get you three on camera. If I sit there, I block the camera. The way tonight's public comment will work, there are at least four different opportunities for public comment. When we get to the public discussion of any items not on the agenda, that is for any item not on the agenda. So nothing to do with the decisions about Robert A. Lee or the master plan decisions about Mercer Scanlon or Happy Hollow Park. Those are things that you will have time to comment on when we get to those actual items. So the first part is for anything else that you'd like to come up. And tonight we do ask that you come up to the mic and stand. We will have, based on the amount of comment that we had last month, we are doing 2 minutes per person tonight, and we do have the clock. We think we've turned off the alarm, so you won't get an alarm. We'll just stop you at 2 minutes. And no more than 30 minutes per item. So 30 minutes for public comment. When we get to each of the additional agenda items, we will have public comment for up to 30 minutes for each of those items. The schedule or how we'll go through each item is once we get past public discussion, when we get to the rec program and facility master plan recommendations, I will first give a brief summary of what the item is about. The commission will then have a chance to ask staff questions or for clarifications of the item. At that point, the chair will entertain a motion if you so choose from the commission. And if there is a motion and a second, we will stop at that point and have public comment on the item for up to 30 minutes. At the end of the public comment, then commission members can once again ask additional questions or have additional discussion about the item, and then you will take a vote on the motion that was on the table. Are there any questions from the commission about how that works tonight? So, all right. Once again, for those of you that were in our crowded sardine can last month, I apologize. That was a very crowded room, and part of the reason we came out to have a little more space and a little better technology tonight. So we hope this works out well. All right. Meeting is yours.
Thank you so much, Julie. Appreciate that. So moving to item number 2 on the agenda, approval of the minutes from last meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll move. I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So moving on to item number 3. Are there any items for public discussion that are not included on the agenda? So as Julie just outlined, not the Robert A. Lee discussion or Mercer or Happy Hollow. The time is now yours if you so choose. All right. With that, we'll close that portion of public comment, and we'll turn it over to Julie for the summary for item number 4.
Okay, so item number 4, the first item is for the commission to discuss the recommendation, the draft recommendation from the Recreation and Facilities Master Plan regarding the future of Robert A. Lee Recreation Center and pool, although most of the discussion has been about the pool. A quick reminder of how we got to this point. We had over a year of public input, including focused outreach to underserved populations, including focus groups, including a statistically valid survey. That, along with the comments and public concerns that we had received up to that point, led to the Phase 1 recommendations for Robert A. Lee. And the recommendations are that due to lower use and due to potential high costs for renovations and changes to that facility, The recreation master plan would say that eventually, if space was provided at a different facility, such as Mercer, or maybe a different facility altogether, that it would probably be in the best interest to decommission the pool and have it for some other recreation purpose. Public ideas for that other recreation purpose were everything from art space to indoor skateboard park, to pickleball, to indoor court space, a number of other recreation uses, but different from the swimming pool. And you have some cost estimates in your packets for the different things. The other concerns that led to that from the public were things like not wanting to drive downtown, not wanting to pay for parking, concerns with the accessibility both into the building and through the locker rooms into the pool, generally the size and age of the pool, and the uncontrolled locker rooms were the last big one. Even though we have a customer service desk down there, there's nothing to watch people actually going into each of the locker rooms. Those were things we heard from the public before. Aqua Fitness users before the master plan were pretty adamant about wanting to move back to Mercer. There's been a lot of discussion about this ever since. Just remember that this is kind of the third part of this master plan, and there's plenty of time to take more attendance numbers and look into more options along the way. So with that, I'll answer questions from the commission.
I know there's been additional meetings, and as we're going through for follow-up from post the previous meeting, I was wondering if you could give just a quick recap for those that might not have dove into the packet, or just
Sure.
for those that might be here for the first time as well.
So a number of people that are in our audience, the Save Robert A. Lee Pool Group, met with city staff shortly after your last meeting. Unfortunately, I was not at the meeting. I had COVID and got to go to isolated land. So Brad Barker and Jeff Fruin met with the group for about 3 hours. I don't have real specifics other than they decided that we would come up with a better counting system or attendance system and agree upon that, and then meet again to discuss things further. In the memo that you all have, a couple of things that we talked about was we've been watching as a staff the number of people in the pool versus the check-ins at the front desk. And we're at the point to say we think the check-ins at the front desk, especially at Robert A. Lee, are accurate. They may be off by 1 or 2 swimmers here or there, but those are like regular lap swimmers that are coming in. These are not, daily paid people that are quote sneaking in or anything. There's a few people that go by for different reasons. We think that's a pretty accurate count, and we will work with the group to either talk about how that works or what we'll put in the packets from now on. We did continue to count the lap swimmers in the water at various times. Once again, that is not related to the overall use of the pool. It's just because you had such a discussion with public about how many lap swimmers there were and were there enough lap lanes. So that gives you some figures of how many people are actually in the pool. It's important to note a couple things from summer. Obviously, we need to see what happens with Mercer or with City Park Pool closing for the season. Where will those lap swimmers come back to? We also know that the Coraville indoor pool was closed all summer too. So there's been some unique things about this summer that we'll want to continue to track. Further questions about aqua fitness counts, swim lesson counts, special event counts, all good questions. We track all of those separately from our daily use, and we'll start getting those into your packets. Aqua Fitness is continuing to evolve because, as we say in your packets, in the last few weeks of August, there was a number of our Aqua Fitness users that purchased passes that had been doing the class registration. So we'll have to adjust that, and we'll work on that. You have a list of some of the different estimated costs for different types of renovations, different parts. A lot of that is beyond the scope of the vision and the master plan. So that's why we don't have specifics on exactly if we do A, B, and C. We don't know what that will exactly cost. We have some pretty good estimates based on the architects and the pool person in the master plan and our recent projects and other estimates we received along the way. We're confident in that those numbers of Mercer being about the $9 million and Robert A. Lee being somewhere between 4 and 5. Not for just remedial repairs that might be needed to keep it operating. But if you want Robert A. Lee to be a fully functioning, long-term investment, you're looking at those kind of dollars. So there's kind of two different parts to that. Is there anything else you'd like me to cover from your packet?
Julie, can we touch on something I hear quite a bit is just a concern that we wouldn't have enough space at Mercer in the current plan as far as lap swimming. Can you talk about in the current plan how many laps we're considering?
So right now it doesn't add lap lanes at Mercer. It adds a warm water, shallow water, possibly with some deeper water for the deep water fitness. I think the bottom line is we don't know the actual size at Mercer, and that would be part of that next phase of design. But it's also part of the reason why we're counting all the lap swimmers. We have, and it says in the report here, how many lap lanes at Mercer available.
Different times, yeah.
There's quite a few, and the use numbers they're not full now. So there is capacity for the ones that are, the people that are swimming at Robert A. Lee to be at Mercer, at least right now, and that's something you can continue to track to see. So the bottom line is there enough space? Yes, that's the intent, and that's the intent with what would be designed and built at Mercer, is to replace enough of the uses so that we would have a robust aquatics program.
Okay, so just to recap, what you're saying is this is a general layout. The specific design is a next phase.
Correct.
And how many lanes will be part of this warm water addition if we choose to move in this direction is yet to be determined based on our current and potentially projected future use.
Correct, and that was a question that came up in our very first public meeting after the master plan, was how many lap lanes will we really need at Mercer? To be determined. And that's the case with all three of these aquatics plans. City Park, we have a draft to get people's response. We've obviously gotten a lot of response. So that has a whole nother process that will happen before any kind of construction in 2025.
And I think there's maybe a disconnect that the public isn't totally, because I get lots of comments beyond the people who show up here, just like, oh my gosh, no, I don't like the design. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of a general idea. This isn't the actual exact design. So that's what I've been kind of telling people as we.
That's a very good statement to make to everyone, that City Park Pool and the Mercer drawings, all the different drawings from Robert A. Lee, those are based on the feedback we received in phase one. So in phase one, the feedback from the survey and from the outreach was a little higher for lap swim at City Park Pool, but also pretty strong for family use. So that's what you see in that particular design drawing. That is not a final design by any means, and we're still two years out before any kind of construction. So there would be a whole nother design process with the pool consultant doing public meetings again. The takeaway on City Park is that people want it to stay relatively within the fence line, which is what that design shows. It has very little expansion outside of the fence line. It keeps the big trees, the feel of the facility, and it updates the locker rooms and the maintenance areas, those kind of things. So same thing when we get to Mercer or Robert A. Lee. Each one of those, so after 2025, if we move forward with City Park as planned, the plan would say the next step would be to look at Mercer and to take the recommendations from this report and do another public process specifically for Mercer and the wellness things and the pool and that. Once that's done, then the next question is the future of Robert A. Lee. This plan is making a recommendation, but several years down the line, you'll have a lot more data, and you would probably update it at that time too. So, does that help?
Yeah, definitely helpful. Thank you.
And if I can just comment, as I've was a part of the steering committee also, and so I've seen the process from the very beginning, and it was everything has been very intentional also. Those plans that we see are concepts based on all of the different processes of getting public feedback. So in various ways, I think that the consulting firm and the Parks and Rec staff was very intentional about collecting data, not just from people who use facilities, but from people that don't use the facilities. So
And may use it if it was different in some way.
Yeah.
Right.
Julie, as we consider the usage at the pools, can you refresh my memory about how, I know Robert A. Lee has shorter hours, so how can we take that and kind of gauge that against other usage, knowing that the hours are so limited, the reason for that, and how we can maybe...
Yeah, so the question is, why, with the limited hours at Robert E. Lee, how can you gauge that? I would say, first of all, the hours are limited because of the number of swimmers that have been coming, and it's something that staff is constantly reevaluating. So if our numbers continue to build, we could definitely bring back the 9 to 11 or the afternoon. It's just that the numbers were so low before that it didn't make sense. So I think you take that into account, but it's based on the history of use over the last couple of years. The evenings are swimming lessons at Robert A. Lee and their swim team at Mercer. So you've got kind of similar uses there. So that would be my answer to that, is that until we see the use numbers for the open hours at Robert A. Lee significantly change, I would not recommend adding more hours at this time.
Can I ask, when we say adding more hours, are we just talking about the cost of like lifeguard? Is that really kind of the main cost when we add more time? Is that what we're considering?
So the background on that was we looked at both pools at a time when we were very concerned about having enough lifeguards, and still that's an issue. We know that across the board, between us, the university, Coralville, and North Liberty, finding enough lifeguards is tough, very tough in this environment. So that was, how do we use our staff most efficiently? Where do we put them at the places that are getting the most use? And based on the numbers we had at that time, it definitely was Mercer. And it seems to still be, but we can continue to watch that. And as long as there is enough capacity at one pool that's open, it makes sense, at least from a staffing perspective, to use our lifeguarding resources for that rather than diluting it between two lesser used facilities.
So it sounds like we have a lot of time to look at the usage at Robert A. Lee. Like, is there a stop point where we say, okay, we're done counting the numbers, this is it, or how long do we have?
It's somewhat up to you as a commission and the council after you. There is not funding at this point to move forward with either Mercer changes or Robert A. Lee. So it seems to be the case that City Park Pool will move forward in 2025. So at the very least, we need to get through that project next. So you're looking at least through 2025. So at least a couple years to get your data, and we would report that to you each month in your packets. The only caveat to that would be if there is some kind of catastrophic damage to Robert A. Lee, like we're talking another tornado or something that causes $1 million of repairs that need to be done. I think then you would get the question a lot sooner. But thank you. Yeah.
Can you remind me what is the plan for funding these major projects?
So the only one that has been fully discussed is City Park Pool, and that is in our capital improvement plan for 2025. Past that, Mercer Scanlon is probably much greater than what the city could bond for in its typical bonds, so it would be probably some form of fundraising, bond sales, referendum possibly. And then Robert A. Lee, depending on the size of the project when you get to it, same thing. If it's around that $700,000 to $800,000 project, those are within our bonding capabilities generally. If it goes into the millions of dollars, then that takes a little bit of different funding sources to make it happen. And those have not been committed beyond the City Park Pool.
Are there plans or possibilities to explore, I don't know, partnerships with either the university or Coralville Parks and Rec or other places to kind of consolidate metro area facilities and resources?
So not specifically, except that we often already share staff. So you may not realize this, but our part-time lifeguarding staff are held to 25 hours per week. So any of our part-time staff that work year-round for our facilities can only work up to 25 hours per week. So we actually have a number of lifeguards, customer service, park staff that work up to 25 hours for us and then work another 20 or 25 hours for one of the other entities. And we are constantly training and sharing staff in that manner. It's not through any kind of interagency agreement. It's just a knowledge that that's what we have to do in this area to keep our pools staffed.
kind of to touch back on what Melissa was saying about partnerships, remind me if we've had conversations with like the Iowa City Community School District about their facility plans, and maybe this is not necessarily a pool question, but maybe a general facility question. Have we had discussions with them about their plans for new schools and whatever they can disclose?
Sure. So the school district already is a partner at Mercer, and they pay a certain amount. I don't know off the top of my head what that is, but a certain amount each year and some money that goes into the capital funding for Mercer. That's been a long-term agreement since that facility was built. Same with some of the athletic fields outside. So we have a lot of conversations with them on that front. As the city and development may move west past 218, there's discussions happening with the school district about their needs for either an elementary or middle school out there, and likely a large park and some kind of indoor rec space that we aren't ready to designate what or how big that might be. So depending on how that all happens, there could be discussions down the line within this 10-year period, actually.
So we could be talking about kind of a west side pool rec center, potentially?
Pool has not been strongly brought up for it, but that is why the master plan says that part of the future discussion of Robert A. Lee also says or other location in case it would be a new rec center out on the west side. That's a I don't have a high probability yet of when or how that might happen, but
But it could be a rec center without a pool, presumably.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Are there other questions from the commission? And is there a motion that the commission wants to bring forward at this time?
What are you wanting us to motion on, like accepting the plan as presented? Is that what you're looking for?
Motions could be something, you could have a wide options here. So the motion could be to move forward with the plan as it's been presented in its draft form, the plan recommendations, which would be the three parts that Robert A. Lee would be reevaluated after City Park and Mercer are, and we'd look through the options in the plan at that point. You could make a motion to not accept the plan, or you could make the motion to accept it with
XYZ.
some other, yeah.
Can I ask one more question? I'm sorry, as we're
Yeah.
talking about this. You had mentioned, I think a second ago, that the way it's currently laid out would be City Park Pool, kind of highest need, and then we would talk about, did you say Mercer next? And then Robert A. Lee? It almost seems like that should be flip-flop to me, because I feel like you're limiting your options about what you're going to do at Mercer if you haven't made choices at Robert A. Lee yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we have to decide that at this point, but to me, it's like, if you like renovate Mercer and then you go 2 years later and say, oh, Robert A. Lee, oh, forget that facility, but then you're like, oh, let's build a new addition to Mercer that we just renovated 2 years ago. That doesn't make sense to me.
You could do that. Your recommendation could be to move forward with the plan through City Park Pool and then reevaluate the status of both Mercer and Robert A. Lee after that point, based on, data collected between now and then. There's lots of different options for what you can.
I would be happy to so move what you just said. I would like to make a motion to move forward with City Park Pool as we've discussed in the current documents. And then, based on further data and discussion, amend or change potential plans for the next two pools, Robert A. Lee and Mercer, at a future date.
So would that be to leave the plan as is with the recommendation to reevaluate those at that point? Is that?
I would be comfortable with that, yeah. I mean, I think we have data supported by all of our community input, so I don't think we just throw that away and start over. I mean, I think we would build on that based on, updated data based on kind of what we've already started with.
Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Now
Okay.
open for public comment.
And now we'll open for public comment. And if you could please state.
Articulate the motion before we address it.
It's typical to have a motion on the floor and then have the public comment before they vote.
He wants to know what the motion is,
Yeah, repeat the
actual
motion.
wording.
Yep. So,
Okay, the motion is, and we're gonna,
yeah.
I'll tell you if
the
you're wrong.
motion is to accept the plan as stated for the 3 aquatic facilities, with City Park being the first to go, and then a reevaluation of the next 2 after that, moving forward with the plan in future years.
Right, because I mean, if we're not even starting City Park Pool till 2025, we're still quite a few years out before making any choices on the other 2 facilities.
What's the plan with regard to City Park if your motion is supported?
Okay,
So-
so the City Park Pool is actually already approved by this commission for the parts of saying that the draft plan is to renovate City Park Pool, generally within the fence line, but to a new pool within that fence line. The plan that has been shown as part of the draft is kind of a starting point for an entire another process that will happen in late 2024 to finalize development. Obviously, there's a lot of input about the number of lap lanes. That's one of the questions that'll be discussed heavily, I'm sure, during that final design. And would also include a new bathhouse and maintenance areas, those kind of things, but staying within the character of what City Park Pool is now, within the fence line, keeping the trees, the current parking, all those kind of things. So that's what the City Park Pool was. That's really not on the agenda for tonight. Tonight is Robert A. Lee first, and then Mercer is the second, although it sounds like we've kind of combined those 2.
Yep. Okay. So we
Okay,
you
we'll
will
go on to public comment. No more questions yet. We need
Yep.
to do public comment.
If City Park has already been approved by this commission, so far as to move to the next stage, so that's not part of what was just motioned.
It's only part of the motion as a time marker
Yep.
to say to have it done first and then move on to the other 2.
Yep.
Essentially, we're tabling what to do with the other 2 pools for,
Until you have more use data. Yeah.
And I think that's another key piece, is just gathering that information from a just usage standpoint. Okay. All right, we'll open for public comment. It's great to see so many here. If you could please state your name as well, so we can document it. And thank
Ann
you.
Stapleton. If Parks and Rec staff are serious about considering the value of REL before making an irreversible decision to close the pool, they could consider 3 changes this month. First, add hours to be more equitable with Mercers. Open REL between 9 and 11 and 2 and 6 in the afternoon so children and families can swim after work and school. Non-swimmers could take lessons that could save lives, and people who need more time due to mobility issues could use the pool. In the heart of Iowa City, REL, your report says, is a preferred pool. It's warmer, provides deep and shallow areas, and provides easier access for children and adults. Second, inform the public of changes. Encourage attendance and count all pool users. For months, 7, Parks and Rec have discouraged attendance, promoted Mercer over REL, and eliminated aquatics classes and private lessons at REL. One Saturday, I and other swimmers left when the online schedule said the pool was closed. Lifeguards stayed. I asked why. They had been hired for 3 more hours that day. People don't attend if they can't access the pool or are told it's closed. And setting schedules to obtain desired results is unfair. Third, hire lifeguards for REL. I was told reduced hours are due to a lack of lifeguards, so I polled close to a dozen. The majority told me they prefer a full morning or afternoon since they need the money. Like most Iowa Cityans, lifeguards also prefer the location of REL over Mercer's. Most are college students, and it's much easier to walk or bike to REL than Mercer. These changes would show the more than 1,000 Iowa Cityans who signed petitions to keep REL Pool open that you're willing to consider their voices and REL's value. Likewise, please listen to the 900-plus voices who argue to preserve City Park's footprint. But my 2 minutes are up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Crane, Iowa City. I have been really interested to hear about the public comments, and there's some I really want to share with you because they come from the city's own documents. Here's the question, here's the answer. To what extent do you feel shifting all indoor aquatics to Mercer would better serve the community's aquatic needs? From the Gather Here survey says 68.7% unfavorable, 10% neutral, from the city's own Gather Here document. Supporting the city's own information are petitions from 1,163 Iowa City residents, which I will submit, who all oppose closing the Robert A. Lee Pool. This is community input that I really think you commissioners should be considering. There are lots of concepts, but one concept is clear. Closure is forever. There's no concept on closure. It's just done. And the community does not want it. The petitions say it, and the survey says it. As to comments to usage, I would be very curious to know, and would hope you would ask, what sort of usage would support maintaining Robert A. Lee Pool? I keep counts. I go. 23 people in the pool on, and this is just in the morning, on August 22nd. 22 people in the pool, September 2nd. There are 6 lanes in the pool. If there are 22 people in the pool, that's 3 people per lane. I would like to know what is adequate usage. Do you want more than 3 people in a swim lane? I don't. We count everybody who's in the pool. And I'm asking the commission to find out what is adequate usage.
I'm having some trouble talking with my seasonal allergy, so I would like to give my 2 minutes time.
No, we don't allow that. I'm sorry. You can have an interpreter, but you can't cede your time to another
I'll
person.
interpret because we conferred, so I can interpret what she wants to say.
Okay,
Is that good?
sure.
Okay, great. One of the issues that's come up.
Oh, could we get her name? Sorry.
Oh, I'm Margie Caruth, MarjieCaruth, Iowa City.
Right. One of the issues that has come up, oh, we need to start over.
No, go ahead, please.
I'll take all the time. One of the issues that has come up is scheduling. One thing that I think the commission should know is from 5:30 to 7:30, the Mercer Pool is closed, well, at least one part of the Mercer Pool is closed for the Iowa City Eels practice. Then, at the same time, and I know this because my kids take swim lessons, our Robert A. Lee Pool is closed from 5 to 7:30, also for swim lessons. If you have all that swimming going on and it's only at one location, where are the lap swimmers going to go? Where are the families going to go? There's not enough water. This community values swim lessons. 91% of the people who responded to Gather Here said they want all children to have the ability to swim. That's a big number, and I share that goal, and I know the city does too, but closing Robert A. Lee Pool does not advance that goal. There's also the goal of equity, which I have discussed before, and the city staff has said that it has numbers on diversity and who swims where. I would be very interested in seeing those numbers and make a specific request for that now. I also make a specific request for accurate counting. I can tell you from my own personal experience, when I walk through, people aren't checking. I volunteer to check in because I have a swim pass, but I can walk right by. My husband can walk right by. We do it. And then we come back, oops, we forgot to check in. We can be your allies. We love the pool. I'm a Parks and Rec booster. Don't turn us into adversaries. Listen to what we're saying. Oh.
My name is Jack Stapleton from Iowa City, and thank you for providing us the opportunity to speak. I want to raise two issues with the Commission. First, at the last meeting I attended, concerns were raised about the aggressive nature of the Friends of the RIA Pool group and how comments of the groups could be construed to be offensive to public servants. As a supporter of this group, I believe that I speak for most, if not all, of the group when I say that our approach is not intended to be offensive. We are only seeking the truth regarding inconsistencies between comments made by Parks and Recreation and the written report of the consulting group. Specifically, our specific pages of the consultant's report, which, by the way, does not recommend closing RIA Pool, are identified in a letter Friend of the RIL sent to you August 8th. To date, we've not had a specific response directly addressing the questions. Second, the data regarding pool use at RAL by the Parks and Recreation Department clearly did not result from complete counting methods, as pointed out tonight and in previous meetings. I'm a scientist. As a faculty member doing research at the University of Iowa for 37 years, I understand how research design, analyses, and interpretation of data work. One thing that is often not understood about research is that any study relying on inaccurate data cannot be relied upon. I conclude that the pool is used much more than stated, and that the consultant's report stresses the importance of access to swimming for Iowa City, in addition to much lower cost estimates for repair than stated by the Parks and Rec Department. Thus, closing REL is not consistent with the consultant's report. To date, the Parks and Rec Department have not provided responses addressing the very specific questions related to cost estimates and usage, and further, they have not provided an alternative rationale for closing or repurposing of the RA pool other than usage and cost. Before reducing access to swimming in Iowa City by closing the most accessible pool in the area, it seems that the Iowa City community deserves to have a formal
time's
response.
up.
Jake, sorry.
Hello, my name is Mark Cannon. I'm one of your frequent flyers. What I'm holding right here is a spreadsheet, and it is from September 1st through the 14th, and it's a count. It is people, myself and other people, actually showing up at the pools every half hour and every hour, counting the number of people there. There are 29 data points. Now, I should also say that there's 5 weeks previous to this, but because of a computer glitch, I was unable to bring it to you, but you will eventually get it. So there are 29 data points here. The numbers are 22, 21. The lowest number I find here is 2, and there's 1 data point with 2. You've heard from the city that the numbers they see are 0 to 2. We don't see it, and this is not just me. This is other people seeing this, okay? But like I said, there's 5 more weeks of this, which we will get to you. And we are counting people in the pool. This is apples to apples. This is not convoluted. It's not difficult. It's not, we didn't count these people in that. It is just people using the pool. I don't know how much clearer that data could be. So we hear that the city may be willing to do counts with us, and I am so thankful. I cannot tell you. So if that is the direction we're going, you'll have my entire support to do that. So there's that. And then I think the other thing is, and I don't expect a show of hands here, but I'm curious on how many people here have read every word of every document that the city has put out yet. Okay? I don't need a show of hands, but I will tell you that people here and other people in our group have read these documents over and over and over. And the information is clear. So I would just encourage you to do that. Some people come up to me in the city downtown and say, well, this is a volunteer organization, what would you expect? And I'm saying I expect a lot of you, because you are making decisions that make a big difference in this community and worth a lot of money. So, but I do, on that same regard, thank you so much. Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Sherry DeGraw, and I actually came to talk about the City Park pool more than the Robert A. Lee pool.
Unfortunately, it's just for the Rex A. Lee at this time.
But did you not have a motion to pass the budget or agree to proceed forward with City Park pool?
City Park pool was at a prior meeting, so that we already presented that and reviewed that. So as part of the evening tonight, so the motion was to just proceed forward with the plan with the city park pool as a timestamp.
All right.
Yep.
For Robert A. Lee Pool, I would say it needs an updating, and I used that pool initially with my kids when they were learning how to swim, and after a while, it just looked like a pool that needed to be refreshed and updated. I felt like I was going to an Eastern Bloc place, a little like when I looked at Mann Elementary School before it was renovated. It looked like it was on the teardown list, and if you invest in the place and promote it better, you will get people coming. You could even do things like, if my kids were a little younger, they would be watch a movie at Film Scene and then go over for a swim. So if you promote it right, you can get the proper usage. I have a friend, John Downer, who made a diagram of a slide that he envisioned could be added to the interior of the pool, which would be much more attractive to kids wanting to use a swim space in the wintertime. I can forward the image to you. Hopefully the commission members on Parks and Rec will get to see it too. And aside from that, my kids look for places where teens can swim, and so a certain pool that I'm not supposed to mention is the place where they go. So if it becomes a overly family-friendly with young children place, they don't want to go there. And many people feel that way. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Susan Melliker, and I'm from Iowa City, and I have 2 minutes, so I'm going to talk quick. In the Phase 2 survey feedback, 68.7%, or almost 70% of the respondents said they do not want all indoor aquatics moved to Mercer, as someone else has already said. Director Johnson states in her September 7th memo to you that, quote, the voices of non-users in the statistically valid survey are really the most accurate information considering the views of the entire community. So even if we were to completely ignore the feedback from Phase 2 and focus on what the community prioritized in Phase 1, according to Barry Dunn, which are the top investment priorities for pool programs, were water fitness classes, lap swimming, senior aquatics programs, and swimming lessons. If these are the top validated priorities as heard from the community at large, including non-users as we've heard, why is the city proposing a plan that closes a pool that already accommodates warm water activities such as these, completely redesign another pool, City Park, I'll say it, and overall reduce the number of current lap lanes, even conceptually reduce the number of lap lanes from 34 right now to 19, or a 45% reduction in lap lanes, even in a concept. That makes no sense. Director Johnson states multiple times in her memo that the University of Iowa CRWC pool is an alternative for community members should the RAL pool close. The CRWC was not built as a community recreation center, and their pricing reflects this at $87 per month per person for non-UI affiliated individuals with no options for family or multiple household discounts. During the Phase 1 community engagement process, Barry Dunn stated that the city staff really wanted to focus on, quote, how we are meeting community needs from an equitable, diverse, and inclusive perspective. Does the University of Iowa CRWC option meet the city's guiding principles throughout the community engagement process of DEI? Another area uncovered as the top priorities were indoor walking and jogging track, weight room, fitness room, and meditation and yoga studio. All of these are also at the UI CRWC.
Sorry.
Should we tell everyone to go there too? Thanks.
Hello, my name is Nancy Romalov, Iowa City. I had not expected to speak tonight. I don't have a prepared statement, and I'll try to add something that I think hasn't been said before. I am a lifelong swimmer. I'm a competitive master swimmer. I'm also a certified teach adults to swim teacher, and I have swum at all of the pools in and around this area. And as you know, each pool serves a different population, and I see that as a positive, not a negative. Robert A. Lee, I swam during the time I couldn't swim my laps at Mercer. I came to Robert A. Lee, and I saw a very different clientele and a very different need. And I would say, as a master's adult teacher, there are 1/3, 30% of American adults do not know how to swim at all. And in cities around the country who have taken that up as a challenge and offered programs for adults, they have seen huge increases in use of pools like Robert A. Lee. So I would just say as an I, when you all know this phrase, if you build it, they will come. If you build a very robust swimming program, I say for adults, we all want kids to learn, but also for adults, and I see Robert A. Lee as a perfect venue for that, they will come. I do believe that. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mickey Weekend, and live in Iowa City. I've been doing water aerobics for more than 20 years, first as a student, then a teacher, and now again as a student. I started deep water aerobics after a bicycle accident. Not only did it help me with my recovery, but I got hooked on low or no impact exercise. Deep water aerobics is safe and important for aging bones and joints, and vital to someone, especially like me, who's had joint replacement. As a teacher, my classes often had 12 or more students. It was at 5:30 in the evening when people got off work. Now, the number of participants may be smaller or fewer, but because of the limited hours, people can't get to the pool when it's available to them. Also, although class members are younger, sometimes the majority at the water aerobics classes are often senior citizens, and I'm advocating for them tonight. Iowa City seniors are a vital and active community here. The majority of us have worked, raised our children, supported our schools and government, and paid taxes in Iowa City. Upon retirement, we continue supporting the city through significant volunteer activities. I'm sure you're aware seniors make up the majority of volunteers for such organizations as the City Library, Iowa City Hospice, the Birdhouse, Meals on Wheels, Table to Table, free lunch programs, hospitals. I could go on and on. Having the opportunity to participate in deep water aerobics at this center not only allowed us to form a community of our own, but has helped us maintain our health and our well-being. Please don't discount our value by allowing the pool to close at the rec center. Seniors need the pool, and Iowa City needs us healthy. The plans at Mercer will not accommodate our needs, not to mention the temperature of the pool at Mercer. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Helen Stefaniak, and I also don't have a prepared speech, but I would like to tell a little story. And it's really just a story about me, and I'm only one person who uses the pool, so in one sense that's kind of irrelevant, but in another sense all the numbers mean nothing unless each one is attached to an actual individual person. I lived on South Dodge Street, about Dodge and Bowery in Iowa City for 23 years, and my husband and I raised our 3 children there, and of course they went to swimming lessons, actually at the old Mercer and at the rec center. When my daughter, I never took swimming lessons, but I paid close attention when I took my children to swimming lessons, and I had this idea that when I turned 40, that was going to be my exercise of choice, was swimming, which is a little illogical. I had to go to a pool, I didn't know how to swim, but I made it work because now I turned 40 in 1991, and today, I swim at least 3 times a week. I'm one of the infamous lap swimmers. Back in 1991, my youngest was still in grade school, and I drove her to school every day. And the only time I had to swim was before she had to go to school. If I had to drive all the way to where Mercer is now, that was as much time as I had to swim. So you have to also consider the time involved in people getting to the pool, not just are you going to provide buses and so forth. I would not be a swimmer today if the rec center hadn't been there, and I swam there starting in 1991. So that's my story.
Thank you, Mary.
Good evening, y'all, and thanks volunteers for serving. We appreciate it. And since many of you are on the younger side compared to those of us who are speaking. I just want to remind everyone that it was 1968.
Could we get your name too?
Dan Katalinich, 418 Fifth Avenue, Iowa City. It was 1968 when a much smaller Iowa City decided that there was a need for a third pool, which engendered Mercer Park. So I think that point needs to be reinforced. I'm not going to give a lot of data, but if we needed a third pool, it is beyond crazy to be closing one of our pools, the most centrally located and accessible and affordable of our pools. And the other point is regarding Mercer. I haven't heard any hard data that aggregates the number of hours. I was a past president of Iowa City Eels. I know how much time the Eels take up in Mercer, and I haven't seen any data about between the Iowa City Eels Swim Club and also the aquatics programs for the Iowa City Community School District. How many total hours does that take up at Mercer Park? Because I can tell you, when we hosted meets for the Eels, the facility was closed, period. There wasn't like one space in the shallow end you could swim. There was no swimming. And likewise at meets for City High and also the junior high, if they're still doing a swimming program. So I mean, those are a lot of hours, and I haven't seen any data on the aggregation of those hours that are taken up at Mercer. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dan.
John Beasley, Iowa City. By way of background, I was in your chairs 30 years ago with Terry Trueblood. Mike Moran was his assistant. I was involved when they put the basketball courts down at Mercer Park. I've served on the board of directors at the Ronald McDonald House. I've served as a director at the public library. I'm on the Harvest Preserve Board now. And I tell you that simply to try to tell you that I've been in your chair. And as I listen to the comments, and I am in the locker rooms at City Park and Robert A. Lee changing before my swims and jogs, I've been debating how to say this. I have a real sense, and I'm not saying justified or unjustified, that there's a distrust that's developed between many individuals and the process. And when I hear comments that users of Robert A. Lee are going in on their own time to count the numbers of swimmers because they don't trust the statistics coming out of the city, that's a concern. And I'm not saying justified or unjustified. When I see people, esteemed professors at the University of Iowa, getting cut off mid-sentence because they've gone 2 seconds over 2 minutes, this isn't the U.S. Congress, this is Iowa City Parks. That's a concern. So my challenge to you in my 12 seconds, lest I get cut off, is work your tails off to reestablish the trust between the consumers of your product and the city of Iowa City. My point in chief, the last speaker, and they cut me off. That's my point.
That will close public comment on item number 4. Before we open it back up to the commission for any additional questions, we'll give some time to Julie to clarify some of the points there.
Sure, if the commission likes, I can just kind of walk through the points that have been made and give you the information. First speaker, the request to add back hours, we touched on that before. If use rises to that level, we would certainly put the hours back. Encourage Encourage attendance at the pool. We agree. That's what we've been trying to do for the past 5 years. And we would ask that all of the supporters of Robert A. Lee Save the Pool, please do the same thing. Can we have your efforts to help us bring even more swimmers into the pool? That would certainly help the numbers. The question about...
Yeah, if you can let Julie finish, please. It's not time for public comment.
Hire more lifeguards. We are trying all the time. We have to be efficient in how we use our staff, and our decisions are based on that, not the particular requests of 1 or 2 or a certain number of lifeguards. We need to put our staff where the most use is and where they're needed the most, and that's a tough decision all the time. But that's where we are with lifeguards. The next one, a couple times it was brought up about the public comment that's in the report, and that is very true. We're excited that we got so much comment, but just to remind the commission that there is a difference statistically between the phase 1 comments and phase 2, and most of the comments pointed out to you are phase 2. And I'm not discounting those in any way, but just pointing out the fact that those are largely from the advocacy group that's in front of you. The phase 1 specifically went out into the community to do outreach to all residents, and the statistically valid survey serves with data points that show that it reached all ethnicities, all areas of the community, all incomes. We have a lot of data that we can rely on from that phase 1. Phase 2 data and input is extremely important as you move forward in the next phases of the plan, but realize that it has that downfall that it is not the outreach and doesn't necessarily represent everyone that was in the phase 1 input. The counts in the pool, we've gone over this before, but we had been counting lap swimmers based on the lap swim comments, and we feel like the check-in numbers are accurate for swimmers coming into the pool. That does not include the aqua fitness counts. So when they count the 23 people on August 22nd and another day, first of all, we might want to look back at the weather to see if City Park was open on that day. But secondly, indeed, we have a very popular aqua fitness class. And in general, I would say our aqua fitness numbers are recovering finally, and we're excited about that. But when an aqua fitness class is, this morning it was 11 people, other days it can be as much as 18 for those 1 hours. It was counted by numerous department heads this morning. So I will tell you that we have the numbers. We can continue to disagree, but that is part of the discussions we want to continue to dialogue with the RAL Save the Pool group. Scheduling with Mercer and the swim teams, correct. The pool closes, but realize that the recommendations are for the additional pool at Mercer. So the idea would be that even if it was closed for swim meets, it would still have a second pool available in this vision for swim lessons and aqua fitness, which it doesn't now. Doesn't answer the lap swim question, but the idea would be that there is additional space that's not taken over by the swim clubs. And that's kind of a number that's moved up and down over the years, so we understand that closing it for the swim teams is a concern, and we would definitely have more information on that as it comes up. The questions about the diversity, that is in the report, the draft report that was in last month's packet. It's the heat maps done by Barry Dunn that showed where our registrations, that's what I was referring to as far as where our residents are coming from for our programs. That's what I referred to when I talked about it before. The question about our customer service staff not checking, I think you heard the answer. It's our regular swimmers coming in, they're chatting, they're not checking in. So another thing that our group out here can help us with is please check in. Help us make those numbers accurate. Help us with that. Comments made about the aggressive nature of the group. I'm sorry, I don't remember that or know what that part is about. the group saying there's been no staff response to the questions. I remind you that that's because you asked us not to respond to you in writing. You wanted a second meeting, which we have scheduled now in the coming weeks. Specifically, that was brought up at the meeting. We said we could provide more data, and we were told no, it's been too much written information, too much confusion in the written reports. We want to sit down and answer the questions, which we plan to do. I believe it's on the 30th, Mark, is that right? That there will be a second meeting between staff and the group. So that is why the group has not received the written things. It is essentially what's been in your packet, so it is publicly available to them if they'd like. Needs the question or the comment that Robert A. Lee needs updating in slides. Exactly, it does, and that's part of the issue here is that the fact of how much updating is needed throughout the building and the locker rooms and the pool and the costs associated with that. Questions about the university pool being an option. I'll stand behind that it is an option. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't look at some kind of subsidized pass or something that was brought up by the mayor in the future if that became a possibility. It's also important to note that the 3 pools in Iowa City has changed since the university has built such a nice pool too. So we have to keep that in consideration as well. Each pool serves a different population, exactly. We all agree, starting in 2016, we've had a vision of every child learns how to swim. We bus kids from the Catholic Workers House. We bus kids from the South District neighborhood centers. We bring them in for free swimming lessons. We provide swimsuits if we needed. We provide transportation. And most of those programs do happen at Robert A. Lee right now. Because that's where the space is available. That's part of our overall mission as a department. That being said, this plan would say those uses might be better served in a new facility designed for those things at Mercer. And the water fitness with deep water, we hear you. I think that's got to be part of the design discussion for any kind of replacement pool, that there is room for deep water, because we have seen as well that the deep water fitness numbers have increased. When we talk about the number of people actually in the pool versus just lap swimmers, yeah, there's often 5 or 6, not often, but several hours out of the week, there's 5 or 6 people in the diving well doing aqua running in the last month or 2. So we acknowledge that, and there's a lot of things that are changing, and thankfully, I think because of all the public input and the public interest, we are seeing a little bump in use. We hope that continues. Aqua fitness is, like I said, finally coming back to the numbers that we've heard historically have been there. So we're excited about all of that, and I would ask if you have any other questions. Now, this would be for the commission.
Yeah, just for the commission at this time.
The public comment is closed. This is commission only.
Yeah.
I think a good question is, we're counting all these numbers, like for what? Like, is it like when we hit 50 swimmers every hour, then that means we get more of this? Or yes, that means this pool is viable? Like,
Yeah.
what's the purpose of the numbers, or what's the fallout?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what is a full pool? You probably see it for a couple hours a week right now, close to it. But still, you only have 2 people in the lap lanes when you have an aqua fitness class that's full, and oftentimes this morning I think there was 2 people in the diving well. So it varies depending on the mix of uses. Overall, until we see more than 1 person in all the lap lanes, I would say you don't have a full pool most of the time. When you have individuals in each particular lap lane, that's awesome for swimmers right now, but that is not an efficient use of aquatic space. And from the programming side, we move things around based on the amount of people that are asking to use it at a certain time versus the needs we have for our registered programs like aqua fitness or swim lessons or some of the special events. Those move to fill space, and we would definitely continue to do that.
So there's not like a cutoff, like, wow, we're looking for this number, this is a lot, this means this.
Yeah, I think that it would be for the general use during the day. If people were waiting for lap lanes, of course, we would say that that's full. We've never seen that, so yeah.
Julie, can
Lap
I-
lanes are rarely filled with more than one person. I know you know that because you're there.
What are, I mean, is there a number though that you're, like, this is, is there a number that you're looking to that would say, if we're looking at the numbers now and we're like, this is low usage, what would be adequate usage? Is there a certain number that you're using?
I'm not
benchmark?
prepared to give you a certain number because it's also a combination of the two pools to say how well are both of them being utilized at the same time. So,
Julie, if we added, I mean, does it not make logical sense that if we added more hours, there would be more usage? I mean, is that a fallacy? I mean, I understand that we're balancing competing interests as far as the cost and the people, but, I mean, our lifeguards make $15 an hour. I can't remember, we need like 2 at Mercer, and I can't remember 2 or 3. So we're talking, from like having a pool open from like, say, 9 to 11, we're actually 3 extra hours. So we're talking, X amount of dollars. I don't know if there's a trial period where we like full open the pool, like max hours, and we get like a legitimate count, and maybe that's not the way to go. But to me, to get a real count of what the usage would be is only valid if the hours are open to everyone.
So I would answer that by saying the decision was based on data for 2 years. The use data for, I'm sorry. I'm asking my staff to clarify, thank you. For 1 year before we made the decision to close. I will tell you at the beginning of that.
This was 2019.
Okay, before pandemic, okay.
And staff at the beginning of that process actually thought it would be Mercer that we would probably close for a few hours in the afternoon. It wasn't until we pulled the data from the 2 pools that it was very obvious that there was almost no swimmers during the afternoons and during that window of time in the morning. So I stand by that decision on the efficiency and the amount of lifeguard staff that we need to hire. Now, I would suggest that that's probably a decision that could be readdressed when we change semesters again. We could hire more staff at that point, have more accurate counts between now and then, and if you see consistently higher use before and after those swim times, sure.
And when you say change semester, that triggers me to think, the change in semester would be a seasonal change. We'd be looking into the winter months, which it seems to me that you would have higher use in the winter. Maybe that's not true. Maybe it's too cold and people just don't swim, but there's also the option of not swimming outside, so then it makes me think people would be swimming inside. So I don't know if have we looked at the seasonality changes?
We have. That was all very much comprehensively looked at before that decision. And that decision predates the master plan, actually. It wasn't part of the master plan process. So.
Any other questions from the commission?
Julie, as we look forward to getting more consistent numbers and counts of the usage at Robert A. Lee, there's been kind of an ongoing lap swimmers versus aquasides versus people in the pool. What are the numbers that we're going to be getting, and how should we be interpreting them as we think about this going forward?
Good question. And I don't want to answer that till we meet again with the Save Robert A. Lee group on the 30th. So we'll have better information. We have agreed with them to sit down and talk through how best to do it. Staff has a certain set of ideas. They have a certain set of ideas. We'd like to dialogue more about that and come back to you. So in the end, you will get some sort of head count of swimmers in the pool that are not there for programs, and swimmers in the pool that are there for programs. And you could have those, side by side if that helps with a total. But that helps us because programs take instructors and take other resources, so we always have those separately. And we'll continue to do spot checks so that we have other staff other than customer service or lifeguards checking at the same time so that we make sure your numbers are accurate.
Can I ask one more question? My understanding is one of the audience members talked about, the pool being closed for swim meets and such, and I understand that the junior high and high school will still be swimming there, but from my understanding, like the Eels Swim Club is going through kind of a transitional period and may not survive potentially into the future. So do you think that changes any of our accessibility as far as timing for other groups?
Yeah, I think that always changes. That's what I talked about, it being a fluid use. I didn't know if I could bring up the state that the swim club is in right now. I will have a meeting with them soon to determine what happens to the future of that swim club. It could become a recreation program. They could merge with another swim club. There's several options out there that we just don't know yet. And that's kind of the changing nature of all of our programming that happens at the pool. There is a certain amount of give and take on a lot of things. So we don't have a specific answer on swim team, but we'll work through that too.
Can I ask for clarification on the motion? And is that to approve the plan as it is, but address the other two pools down the road?
Correct.
So we would be voting, if we voted today to approve that, we would be saying, yes, we support closing the pool?
No. The plan states that with City Park Pool, there'd be a second process. It's saying a process. We've talked about that. It says then a new public process based on the adult fitness and other needs that have been expressed or wants expressed from Mercer. So there would be another public process at that point because, as I said, there's no funding for that either. And then another process for Robert A. Lee. It does stay in the plan that due to the estimated costs and use at this time, that's the recommendation, but it also will say that it would have a full process before the final decision. So you're kind of looking at a vision of, we know there needs to be a certain amount of indoor pool space. The plan is saying potentially to do this at Mercer rather than Robert A. Lee, but it's also giving you checkpoints along the way to change that. And you could decide to do Robert A. Lee first before Mercer. That, I think that's fluid as well.
So I have a class to teach in about 20 minutes. So I just wanted to say I would support the motion. I would love to, like, if I could make a request down the road, I would love to see some options for the downtown pool for Robert A. Lee that, would kind of have a few, a couple, like a spectrum of choices, right? So maybe one option is to kind of keep the pool, like update it, maintain it. Another option might be to close it and go to Mercer. And maybe another would, as a lot of people have stated, the whole rec center is dated. It needs a lot of updates and kind of make it more attractive in the heart of our community. And I would love to see what those would look like. I guess it would be a few years down the road. But I think one thing I take from all these comments that people have made, and my biggest takeaway is how important this spot downtown is to the community. And I guess I'm not totally sold that it has to have a pool. I'm not sold that the pool should close. But I think it's, this is a centerpiece of our recreation system here. And I think I'm glad to hear all the discussion, and I hope we really think big about what it could look like. So.
I would just mention you do, for the options that were in the aquatics report, you probably want more information, but there are 4 different drawings of a different pool, and then 3 other options that you have from that. But
at this time, could we vote on the motion? All in favor of the motion that was presented? So signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So that concludes item number 4. Moving on to item number 5.
Right.
And we'll turn some time over to Julie for some summary.
Okay, so item 5 talks about the overall facility changes potentially at Mercer. So not only the warm water pool that we've been talking about a lot, but also changes to the locker room, which are shown as one big blob on the drawing right now. It will be individual locker rooms. Don't worry, it's not one big, I've had that question. So, as well as changes of the lobby, the entrance, the staff office area, a wholesale change, addition of the gym, a walking track, other adult fitness things, as that was a really high level of interest from the Phase 1 master plan. So your motion tonight would be, are you willing to move forward, or would you like to move forward with those type of changes to Mercer? Once again, the timeline after City Park Pool is done, unless a tornado took out half the gym or something. But the plan is your long-term guidance for what you might like to see in that overall space. Is that?
I'd be happy to make a motion for that. Tell me where you think we would discuss flip-flopping the plan, because I really couldn't get behind not doing Robert A. Lee before we discuss Mercer. I just don't think it makes sense. So would I make a motion to consider the future of Robert A. Lee prior to Mercer? Or walk me through that.
I think you could go ahead and make that motion right.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to definitely make that motion that in future planning, the first priority should be city pool, city park pool, and then the next consideration for any kind of major renovation, addition, subtraction should be Robert A. Lee, and then followed by consideration of Mercer.
Is that seconded by Melissa? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm not really necessarily on board. I mean, that seems like a last minute kind of
I think
to add.
I would rather see a discussion of which would be a priority after the city park renovation.
I mean, we haven't really heard from Mercer people, you know?
Yep.
But no, I mean, I guess my motion shouldn't be like, this is the plan and we're moving forward, but it's more like we would start discussing the future
Right,
of
but we're
that
talking about
first.
like discussing it in 2025, which we are not, any of us, going to be commission members for. So I think making that finality is, I don't agree with that specifically, but I would accept a motion where we discuss which priority after City Park Pool is, which pool is a priority after City Park Pool, or which facility.
So based on that information,
Does she wish to amend? You asked, does she wish to amend the motion?
yeah, do you wish to amend the motion?
Sure, I think that seems reasonable, yes.
Yeah. Is that seconded? Melissa, are you
Sure.
so good? Second. All in favor with the amended motion?
Aye.
Say aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. And now at this time, we'll open it up for public comment for the Mercer decision at this time. The motion, sorry, I apologize. So the motion was we will review, and commission members, correct me if I'm wrong here, so that we'll review the order of discussion of which pool to address after the city park pool.
I think she's asking what's the motion from Mercer. Did we have the motion from Mercer yet?
You haven't made a motion
No,
yet.
haven't made a
There
motion.
hasn't been one yet from Mercer. So
Yeah.
we just talked about it, the plans that are shown in the master plan, and
Yep.
whether the commission wants to agree to those as a preliminary plan with the idea to move forward after city park pool. Your motion would be something similar to that, if you choose.
Yeah.
It's not a motion yet. Hang on.
Yeah, sorry.
I guess my question with this is, it feels a little cart before the horse. Or we're not talking about the pool part, we're just talking about the rest of the facility? Am I correct?
You're talking about the overall
master.
concept of all of Mercer
Right.
Scanlon.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going back and using data and we don't really have all that data yet, how are we making choices about the size of the facility?
Well, you're basing, so the plan would recommend the addition of gym space and the walking track based on the high,
That's what the public wanted.
the
Yeah,
popularity,
I'm
like
totally
the
down with
walking
that.
track addition and the
Yeah.
gym and the adult fitness. That was like one of the highest parts of your phase 1 data. So that's what you're saying is,
Okay.
that's the next part we would
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear about what we're
Yeah.
deciding on
Yeah.
here, because it's hard to make these choices when we're cutting them in pieces and then moving them around in a plan. So, I mean, I'm happy. I like the additional gym. I think that's necessary. I like the walking track. I think the data supports both of those as far as usage and what the public would like to see and what they feel like they would use. So, and I see that in these plan options. So if we are not making any choices at this point of pool size or design or moving or closing, as long as that decision is not yet what we're discussing, I'd be fine making a motion to move forward as is.
So it sounds like your motion is to move forward with the Mercer Scanlon renovations, holding the pool discussion to coincide with Robert A. Lee pool use discussions at that time. Does that sound?
Yes, I mean, barring pool discussion as a separate discussion than the general facility around the pool, if that makes sense.
I'm going to second that.
Yep.
No.
Just to confirm, again, to reiterate again what Brianna is saying, the options to move are either to proceed with considering the renovation or to not consider the renovation. Is that kind of the basics of what we're moving here? So either something moves forward, to be determined, pool, not pool, whatever, that's all to be determined in the future, but the motion is either to go in that direction or to stay where we are.
I don't want to put words in Brianna's mouth, but you're essentially saying that the vision right now for the future of Mercer Scanlon, as shown in the master plan, is what you'd like to see shown, being confirmed at the time we're ready to move forward with it.
Yes, with the pool parts still being up for discussion. So I'm just talking about the non-pool parts, like adding the additional gymnasium, adding the track, and doing general renovations. If the numbers support that. I mean, we still are going to have additional data and some additional time for wiggle room on that. But I just want to make sure that voting no or not voting in any way doesn't preclude us from keeping the process moving forward in some way, right? It's just the process. We're not making any, closing, opening, big decisions like that as far as the pool.
And we know that there probably needs to be renovations to that pool. I mean, as far as like adding certain things or updating things. And so.
Well, we know something has to be done.
Something has to be done.
Something has to be done.
I would say it's similar to Robert E. Lee. The entire facility is going to need renovations as we move forward in the next 10 years or 15 years.
Right.
And this is saying that based on the input for more adult fitness activities, that's the direction that the facility would go.
We're not saying like what the plan's going to be. We're saying they're going to renovate the pool. I mean, they're going to renovate the whole facility. I don't think that's what your motion was, though.
Can I clarify what you're saying in your motion? Are you not even entering anything about the pools in your motion? Are those completely separate? You're not even including those?
Yeah, I mean,
or are you saying that you want to, as part of your motion, that those are going to be, I'm trying to figure out what
I guess my motion, just to clarify a little bit, and I'm literally making up it as I go, so I'm clarifying it to myself.
Okay.
Is the facility we know needs these additions, and I think, like I said, they're supported by the data and what the public wants. The pool piece is yet to be determined, but I don't want to stop us from making progress on all of the plans by saying we're doing nothing until we have all the data for the pool. So, and are you comfortable with me taking out the pool section in the motion and just making a motion that we would move forward with renovations, and mostly really what we're talking about is renovations in addition to the current footprint of Mercer, with a pool section to be determined with, usage and numbers in the future?
I think that's up to your commission members. You could say that you could word it to say, I think you're saying you would like to approve the plans as shown for all areas other than the aquatic areas.
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
And consider those in conjunction with future pool plans at all facilities, but that's up to the rest of you.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I just want to make sure that we're moving forward with other plans and not getting mired down in just a pool discussion. And that keeps us from moving forward with budgeting and, envisioning for the other parts of the facilities. Because those facilities are used more than just a pool. I mean, they're used heavily for basketball and volleyball and a whole bunch of other things. So I don't want us to get mired down in just a pool discussion. It's a bigger entity than that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
So is there a second to the amended motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Public comment. Sorry, I apologize. Public comment.
I don't know that. I mean, I feel like we know the pool needs to be renovated, and we're not deciding a final thing tonight.
So process would be you have a motion and a second on the floor right now. So we'll take public comment, and then you'll vote or have a discussion, and then vote.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
We're getting a little long.
Yeah, apologize for. So
is there any public
public comment on this motion? Yeah.
I'm Susan Melliker again. I am confused, about what you guys are deciding. To me, the motion should have been to remove the discussion, to remove the pool from the master plan at this point in time. But my thoughts with Mercer are, everyone says that going downtown is so difficult. I can't park downtown, I can't access downtown. But I think about Mercer, and there is basically one road that goes to Mercer, Bradford Drive, which then goes next, past Southeast. I lived next door to City High for 10 years, and I didn't go anywhere at 9 o'clock in the morning, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because I couldn't get out of my driveway. And I think about, again, I am adamantly opposed to centralizing all aquatics at Mercer for many reasons, because when I walk into the Robert A. Lee pool, it's not because there's no one there. It's because it feels like a Buddhist retreat. And when I walk into the Mercer pool, it feels like a Catholic church basement potluck. It just feels like, And so when I think about all of this, the city has a goal to reduce their carbon emissions by 55%. But yet we're going to have everyone drive to Mercer, right? Many people will ride bikes, but there's, they have to take a bus downtown and then they have to change their bus. From a transportation perspective, getting to Mercer is difficult and getting there at certain times of the day is nearly impossible. Go over there when Southeast is getting out. And additionally, I can park my car at the rec center and I can walk 20 steps and I'm in the pool. So from an accessibility perspective, Mercer, you're going to be parking a lot further away, you have to walk a lot further through the building, and it's going to be even bigger with these additions. So I'm, again, advocating for not centralizing aquatics there, but just something to think about from an access perspective. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Ann Tabor. I did send an email with some of my thoughts to you, but I just wanted to bring up about Mercer that, and I don't see any pickleball player people here today, but, as you heard it, I think the last commission meeting, they're growing, they're active, 500 plus members, and I see nothing dramatically in your plan, although I may have missed it, except for if you demolish Robert A. Lee, you'll put pickleball courts there. What my suggestion in the email that I sent to you was instead of building a pool, a warm water pool that, a therapy pool that I don't want to swim in, build a indoor pickleball facility. Lots and lots of cities across the state are doing this, and you would have a population that would be there every time. So consider pickleball in your renovations for Mercer.
Thank you.
Iowa City, and I'm happy to talk a little bit about Mercer. Julie, you mentioned that the people who responded to phase 2 were the users. That is not my experience. I didn't respond to Phase 2, and the 20 people who are here in support of not centralizing aquatics at Mercer, they did not indicate that they were part of that Phase 2. I want to remind everybody what the community said about Mercer. Almost 70% said no, they don't want it. They said no. The petitioners said no, they don't want it. Somebody observed there haven't been any Mercer people. Think about it. There haven't been any Mercer people. Nobody's advocating for this. They can read the agendas as well as the Robert A. Lee people. They're not showing up because they don't want it. Do you really want to roll the dice on something that almost 70% of the people surveyed said they don't want? I don't understand what the sources of support are. I also don't understand what the usage is. I want to make that point. We need a target because it keeps getting moved. What's full usage? What's a viable pool? These are reasonable questions from concerned people who love Parks and Rec. I said it before, don't turn your allies into adversaries. We can be your best ambassadors. We can be the people who build a vibrant aquatics program. We don't like this. I'm not an oppositional person, and I don't want to come to all these meetings and oppose. I want to work with you. The community's telling you what it wants, and it's not what you're doing.
This is just a question kind of about the overall plan of Mercer and the surveys.
Could we have your name again? I'm sorry.
Mickey Wiegand, Iowa City. I don't remember that the first survey even mentioned closing a pool. I thought the first survey was about usage, but it didn't really mention an option that, or the broach the question that one of the pools would be closed. Am I wrong?
This is just the time for public comment, so I think we'll answer that after. I think, yeah.
I can address it if you want.
Yeah.
We'll address it at the end of public comments.
Yeah. All right, that closes the public comment. And now, as far as if you want to.
So the answer, Mickey, to your question is, the first survey asked people in more general terms, what would make Iowa City Parks and Recreation services and facilities better? It didn't ask about closing the pool because that was not ever an intent of the plan. It was an outcome of the Phase 1 input. So that's how we got to that, was from the input received in general from all of the outreach and the survey efforts. So that's why the specific questions weren't asked about should we open or close a pool. It was an outcome of the information received from the Phase 1 parts of that. And once again, Phase 2, it doesn't have the same statistical validity. It doesn't have the same outreach to underserved groups that Phase 1 had. That's all we're saying with that part. We've talked about what reasonable use, So once again, the motion on the table, Gabe, can you help us with that? Do you have the motion down?
Give me a moment. Sorry, a lot of notes. Okay.
Yeah.
The motion as seen is to approve the plan of all areas shown for the Mercer master plan except the aquatics. The aquatics will be reevaluated alongside the RAL pool facilities at a later time. Does that sound consistent to the commission?
So that's what you have for discussion and then a vote.
Yeah. Any other questions from the commission?
I have I don't know if it's a question or comment, but sorry. We've gotten a lot of input and comments and that from people that are opposed to Robert A. Lee being closed, which, I mean, we encourage people to speak what they want and don't want and that kind of thing. But I think sometimes that we forget that when things are going the way that people want, they're not going to be the ones that say anything. So if people in the area or that people that use Mercer, if the use and times and things that are being provided there are working for them, they're not going to be the ones that come into this meeting and ask for things that are different, basically.
Other questions, Missy?
By, if we approve the motion to renovate Mercer, we're not saying we're deciding to centralize the pool tonight. Or is that is not the decision we're making?
That is not.
We're saying, hey, these are things the public asked for. They asked for a warm water pool. We have determined that this is a good place for it. And it has nothing to do with what will happen with Robert A. Lee.
Right.
Yeah, the motion will be discussed as far as Robert A. Lee and Mercer at a later date. So.
I would like to hear more about some of the objections that were brought up related to accessibility of Mercer, maybe not necessarily as part of this motion, but I did live in that area, and it is the one access point. It's hard to get in and out when there's a lot of traffic. So if we are trying to build this into a really large, useful destination, recreation facility, will there need to be consideration of that kind of pinch point of getting in and out of that area?
I think there would definitely have to be traffic studies. I can tell you that our near-term plans, unrelated to this discussion, is to make it a two-way traffic through the parking lot now. It's been one-way for years over there. We've had a lot of requests of why, and so that's already in the works to help with that. The traffic hasn't stopped some of the higher use times, so I'm not sure that it necessarily relates to the comments that you're hearing. It is, obviously, there is a lot of traffic over there during that before and after school time, but I think that's something that would have to continue to be discussed.
Sure.
Even widening that road at the mouth of Bradford where you have turn lanes left and right or something like that, because it's tight getting in the driveway there. I have 2 kids at Southeast, so I'm well aware of the traffic there.
There's another entrance as well. It's not just the one entrance.
Yeah.
Other questions from the commission?
Julie, I'm wondering if we see more diversity down over at Mercer because it is more walkable for the residents that live over there. Is that?
That's true. And we see a lot of diversity because of its location right next to Southeast Junior High in overall building use.
Right.
I see some naysayers in the audience. I just want to say that's based on our, visual head counts after school and during the overall use of the facility, not specifically for lap swimmers.
Right, overall building use.
But we do know that that's the facility preferred by neighbors in that area, just like Robert A. Lee is preferred by people closer to downtown.
All right.
I like the whole theme of if you build it, they will come. Redo this Mercer pool and the Scanlon Rec, and it's going to bring more people in.
So is there, as far as a vote of the motion, so we already had all in favor of approving the motion as stated by Gabe. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Can you repeat it again?
Could you repeat it one more time, Gabe?
Approve the plan of all areas shown for the Mercer Master Plan with the exception of the aquatic section. The aquatic section will be reevaluated alongside RAL pool facilities at a later time.
So one more. So another motion or just a vote?
You have that motion, so do you need to do a roll call?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yep.
April? Missy?
Aye.
Okay, Melissa? Brianna?
Aye.
Connie?
Aye.
Nice.
All right.
Okay, this closes item number 5. We'll move on to item number 6, Happy Hollow Park ball field. And we'll give some time to Julie as well for a summary.
All right, so the question at Happy Hollow was brought forth by City Council member John Thomas. He was asking for the baseball diamond to be returned to its previous state, which had what we call a skinned infield or a gravel rock infield. Egg lime is the appropriate term. The history on this is in 2019, we had a public input meeting at the park. We had we had requests for open space, soccer fields, soccer use, those type of things. We also felt like there was a very low use of the actual baseball field. The primary user at the time and still is our city T-ball program. So from a staff perspective, it made sense to change it to a grass infield because that's typically what would be used for T-ball, and that is what's used at the other 4 T-ball fields in the community. That seems to be popular with T-ball and general users of the open space in the park. However, as you've read in your packets, there's a number of local residents near the park that would really like to see it returned to the baseball field. So that's the question put forward by the council. Asked us to have a second meeting. You've seen the input from that meeting. You've seen the use data is in your packets. Staff recommendation would be to keep it grass, but of course we will do what is requested. The grass is equitable across all of our programming for T-ball, and if it was an ag line field, it would be for only the youngest baseball teams. So we'd answer any questions you have about the topic. Yeah.
Is this related to how we maintenance our fields as far as no weed killer? I know when we kind of first went to that program, there was, I had quite a few people approach me feeling like it wasn't maintained. And it wasn't that it wasn't maintained, it's just that we had changed how we maintain it as far as dandelions growing and such. And some people didn't like that feel to it.
So the timeline of our move to less chemicals on the fields and in our parks was about 2015, 2016, shortly after I got here. Okay. And indeed, that did make maintenance of that field more difficult. And the reason being is because it is a standalone field away from our athletic complexes. So in order to maintain the ag lime, equipment and staff has to be transported from one of our other facilities. Right. At best, we were doing that about once a week. With it being grass, it's maintained by the regular park staff more often. So there is a component there for the cost of staff time and equipment to move and come over and do the one field versus the overall athletic field complexes. You have options in your recommendations on this as well, I should mention. The park itself is scheduled for a new playground in 2024, so that if there was a recommendation to change the baseball field, that might be the best time to do it so the park is torn up at the same time. But you could also recommend to do it sooner or recommend to leave the field as is. Those are kind of the options.
I would be happy to make a motion to keep the field as is with consideration given to 2024 planning year when additional park renovations, including a playground, will be discussed.
Is that seconded by?
I'll second that.
Okay. At this time, we open it up for public comment for the Happy Hollow Park.
Someone.
And we're grateful that you're here, and if you could just please state your name.
Pictures of what the park would like.
So who's?
Thank you.
Gabe was asking for confirmation on who seconded.
Oh, that was me.
Okay, Missy. Thank you, Missy.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sarah Clark, a resident of the North Side. And for over 3/4 of a century, this little gem of a neighborhood park has been vatting above its weight. In what was once a brick yard, this park has served generations of Iowa Cityans as a place for ball games, both organized and pickup, sledding, soccer, picnicking, basketball, kite flying, simple games of catch, and much more. This is not just my description of the park 3 blocks from my house. This is a description of how ball fields in neighborhoods actually function. Prior to the removal of the infield, Happy Hollow was the only neighborhood ball field in Iowa City. Now there are functionally none. The city's metric of permits as the way to calculate usage doesn't capture the everyday use of the field in a neighborhood park. Neighborhood parks see a continuum of use from informal play and practice to organized games for all ages. As Zach Wiedemeyer, founder of Taproot, described it 2 years ago when asked about his thoughts about changes to the park, said, "From my perspective, I think the ball field is a valuable part of the intermediate neighborhood and also all of the Iowa City area in general. In normal, non-distancing times, the park is used every spring, summer, and fall evening by all kinds of people, including baseball and softball teams, both formal and informal, and both kids and adults. In my younger days, my college friends and I played softball at Happy Hollow multiple times a week. Many years later, my own children, their friends, and I have used the ball diamond countless times for batting practice, pickup games, and even invisible baseball. As a Little League coach, it was clear that there is no surplus of baseball fields in our area. It was often difficult to find a free diamond to hold practice. I'm sure other coaches have similar experiences." As noted in your staff report, in July 2019, there was a survey done. There was no question asked about...
I'm sorry.
Yep. Okay. Sorry, I will just say very quickly, no questions asked about infield removal. In the surveys that were done in August, there were 38 responses because one person did respond twice, both in person and online, and essentially said the same thing, which was keep it as is. So of those 38, 25 said return the field, and 2 said status quo.
Hi. This is really why I came down here tonight. I do care passionately about the pool, City Park pool, mostly. So Sherry DeGraw again, and I live on Brown Street, and I taught my son how to play baseball at Happy Hollow Park, and we love it. I go there every day with my dog, and I drive past it several times a day. And I can say that prior to the skinned infield being removed, it had a lot of usage. If you look at the documentation, you may find that people were not paying a $25 fee to use the field, but they were there using the field, and it's 2 teams playing each other. It could be 1 team practicing. When my son was on Iowa City boys baseball, we often had a problem where there were not enough fields in Iowa City, and we would drive over to Weber to get access to a baseball field that was skinned and also had an electric outlet so that the coach could use the pitching machine. That's what the coaches really want to do. So I would like to advocate for the skinned infield coming back, and also to add electricity there, because you would find many more people booking it. I don't know if Iowa City Boys Baseball can request access to that space and use it also, but they would use it. During the park play, so I'm sidestepping a little bit, talking about another thing. At North Market Square Park, there's park play, 9 to like 11:30 during the summer. If some of that were shifted over to Happy Hollow and there was the skinned infield there, kids thrive on that. It's just the real deal skinned infield. It's sort of like telling soccer people, we'll give you 2 cones, you don't need the goalie thing, just imagine it. So it really makes a difference to have the skinned infield. Anyway, if some of the park play was over there, kids that are from the neighborhood over by Hy-Vee, behind the abandoned office complex that Tracy Barkalow owns. There are
I'm
kids
sorry.
there that would watch us play, and they were wanting to come out and play with us.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dave Moore, and I didn't intend to speak, but this was the issue that I came down to listen to. Can I ask, does it take part of my time to ask a question? Because what I would like to say depends on the question, which is, what's the need for staff to be down there once a week to maintain it? What's the need there? And then what's the cost of that for a year? And then I'm going to
We have that information in the packet, and it can be provided after the meeting.
Oh, what'd you say, Julie? I can't hear in the room.
We have the information is in the packet for some of the costs and
Oh, it's
other
in the
things.
packet. I'm
Yep,
sorry.
and we can provide that after the meeting.
Okay. Just empirically I live in the north side and I'm over there all the time. It just seems like what they call the skin field was sort of the real deal and really way more used. I'm not aware of what the real preferences are of T-ball players, but all I can say is it seems to me like Sarah Clark handed you nice folks a fairly substantial package of information, and I would hope you take the time to look it over before you make a decision on this, and before you, it's okay. Maybe it's not so substantial. Oh, it's a page? Okay. I hope you don't postpone this decision until 2024 just for expediency. I hope you consider getting it back to a real baseball diamond where a lot of people are enjoying it, and not just in the north side, but from around the rest of Iowa City. It's a sweet spot, and I hope you. I sort of feel like just standing here for 19 more seconds. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Can I clarify, just to kind of address a little bit? I guess I didn't make the motion as far as expediency. I hate to see us dig up parks or any space. It's like you have a plan, but you've only half baked the plan. So you go in there and you do some kind of renovation, and then like a year later, you renovate it again and you like half tear up the stuff you just renovated. So my kind of idea was more, if we're already going to do the playground and that's already slated for '24, that was kind of my rationale of reconsidering, do we want a skin there? And that may be a valid concern. I mean, I'm not completely up on like softball, baseball skins or no skins, I'll be completely honest. But I mean, I think that decision best makes sense from a fiscal and just from a physical tearing up of the space to be combined together. So that's kind of why I squished them together.
And I would agree. I would echo that as well. It seems more efficient to do it that way.
Yeah.
Was the original change, I read through the packet, but I don't remember seeing this, the original change to de-skin it, was that conveyed? I know there was concerns about the condition of the field at the time when it was skinned and hard to maintain.
So it's similar to the question about, did we ask if the pools should be closed in the first survey? The last time we went out to the park, it was more of a general public input night to ask residents in general what would they like to see happen in the park. So we didn't specifically ask the question about the field because, once again, it wasn't ever envisioned that it would change. But then based on the comments received in that first night of input, it seemed to make sense, along with the strategic goals of the committee, of the council, to move forward and change it to the grass infield. So did we specifically ask the public if they'd like a skinned infield or grass of that neighborhood? No. We haven't asked that actually at any of our other similar fields around the community. You have it at McPherson Park, Willow Creek, Court Hill, and Mercer. So you have it at the same kind of facility at 4 other parks. We also haven't asked them what they would like, if they would like a skin field or a grass field. So,
Have those facilities been grass the whole time, or when was there the conversion for that?
they have been. Yeah. And see similar use to what we would see at Happy Hollow.
So when it was skinned, like there were weeds, and we're not going to go back to using pesticides,
No.
correct? So it'll be an ongoing issue, maintenance.
There would be a need for additional maintenance. We can make that happen, but there is a cost associated with that, of course.
So I'm sorry, but the public comment's closed at this point.
Want to hear what the audience has to say. They'll call people up to hear clear.
We follow the council. We follow the same rule as the city council, so we don't allow additional comments, sorry.
Sorry.
It's too bad because I heard some pretty accurate
Are there opportunities for the community members to help with the maintenance, or is that a liability issue, or if they're that interested in
I
having
think
that
always
skin?
there would be, but
We do maintenance at our neighborhood park. I mean, not maintenance, but, we plant flowers and weed and mulch and, kind of pretty up stuff in our neighborhood park.
So the motion right now is to keep it grass and then look at it again when we're redoing, when they're looking at
In
the process.
so you
24.
would leave it until at least 2024 and consider it with the playground project.
Which really means, am I correct? I mean, a 2024 plan is actually discussed next year.
We would be doing, that plan would come before the commission about this, well, probably 13, 14 months from now.
So we're really talking it sounds like 2024 is a long time, but if it's the year it's implemented, you're planning the year before. So really, we're not, I know in kid years it's a long time, but.
Yeah, I would say you once again have a discrepancy from what the public is saying the use is versus what staff witnessed as use. So it's just, once again, it's the same discussion we've had in almost every park or facility change. I'm not going to argue which one is accurate. I'm just going to say that you have that same discrepancy again, so.
All right, so motion, as far as voting on the motion of leaving as is until the 2024 time to revisit. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Motion passes, and we will now move on to item number 7, report on items from city staff.
I'll keep this pretty short from my part and say the same for you guys too. The one thing we've been working on a lot lately is a region-wide grant that has gone in for the Destination Iowa grant program. It's gone to the state last week. It's called Pedal Paddle, and it looks to improve facilities along the river. So loosely what that means in Iowa City, the projects included from Iowa City include some trails projects. It includes the single-track bike trail down by City Park. It includes the skate park and gosh, I'm getting tired. The skate park and pump track, includes boat ramp improvements at Sturgis Ferry, and then 1 or 2 other kayak canoe launches along the river. So it's pretty exciting. It is just a grant application at this point, but we would certainly hope to maybe get some of that state money that came in. And it's been an effort through Think Iowa City.
How much is it, did you say? I'm sorry, I missed the amount.
I actually don't have the amount written.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it is a grant that also includes components from the city of Coralville and components from Johnson County. So our part is about 1/3 of it. Okay, that's all I have.
All right, Brad.
I feel like I got to speak into the mic here. Oh, can I use that one? All right, great. That's perfect. Thank you. So I just wanted to provide just a few updates on what's happening in the world of recreation. We have just transitioned over to the fall season. We wrapped up City Park pool season, successful season for us. We had finished it off with the dog paddle on the 11th last Sunday, and we had a great turnout for that.
And one certain
yes,
Parks and
there
Rec
was-
director's dog was the one that had to be rescued from the middle.
The one dog that had to be rescued.
Wouldn't get out. He wasn't not swimming. He just would not get out of the water.
That's so funny.
Farmers Market's going really well. We had our 50th anniversary a few weeks ago, and we had a wonderful turnout for that. We have another very popular event coming up here for Farmers Market, the Kids Market, which is on September 24th, and that usually brings out a lot of kids vendors. So if you don't have anything going on Saturday morning, the 24th, check that out. And then the following day, we have a tri-fishing derby. So this is a new thing for us. This is going to be at Lower City Park, September 25th, 1 to 3 p.m. This coming Sunday, we have a science and technology house party, which is another one of our featured STEAM events that we have throughout the year. And that's going to be a free event from 2 to 4 p.m. at Robert A. Lee Recreation Center. We have a whole bunch of Halloween events. I think we have like maybe eight different Halloween events that are going to be going on this October, and probably the one that's going to be new for us. It's going to be in addition to our Halloween carnival that we have. We're doing a sensory-friendly hour prior to that, and so that's going to be a new addition for us. And then one last thing, we are fully staffed now with our recreation team, so I'm very excited about that. We had our new
Full-time.
recreation program supervisor, full-time, yes, thank you.
Qualifier.
Yes, we had a recreation program supervisor start with us a couple weeks ago, and that's in the adaptive and inclusive recreation and outreach programs. So very excited about that.
I did see your media on the fishing thing, so I thought that sounded fun.
Good. Yeah.
We don't have like little boys, but I know little girls do it too, but because it's meant for younger kids, right? Yeah.
Yeah, what are the ages for that?
Oof, that's a good question.
It says on the flyer, but it was younger kids. I mean, I thought it was like 7 to 12 or something like that. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Brad. Tyler.
I'll try to keep it brief as well. A lot of projects continue to have progress. Pedmall Playground is being installed. The playground is installed, but there's still site work left at Court Hill. Most of the site work is done at Chaddock Green. The restroom is still, they're waiting on shipment of that this month, and the shelter for Court Hill will come at the same time. Those are scheduled for end of the month if they don't get pushed back. Exciting news today, we found out the playground's been shipped for Whispering Meadows, which is part of that same project, group of projects. So our staff will be installing that and get on that when it comes in. Sometimes that shipping though means a couple weeks yet, so we'll see when that comes in. And as far as forestry goes, we have a bunch of tree planting that's about to start with a new set of projects. In the South District, or a big portion of the South District is one of them, a smaller one on Kennedy Parkway on the Iowa City side of that, and a smaller one on Prairie du Chien kind of area. So we'll be having a lot of new trees with that. And then we also got word today, so everything good happens on commission days, I guess, that we received a $10,000 grant for planting trees through the community forestry grant through the DNR.
Awesome.
That's a combination of funds from EAB, EAB kind of response, as well as derecho response, so it's a two-part one. We've had, two of those in previous years, so this year, or this fall, will be our third one of these grants. And we're going to be planting, I believe the number 67 trees in Riverfront Crossings Park on October 15th at 9 a.m. start time. We have Rotary to kind of lined up to help with that too. And I guess another good thing is I believe Rotary has another project hopefully lined up as well with some additional funding they've received. So actually 3 good things today. Any questions, any of that, or anything I didn't cover?
I do have several questions.
Yep, go for it. I do too.
Okay, first, can you give an update on the library playground? I can't remember the official name.
Yeah, that's the Pedmall one. It is currently being installed. I haven't been down there yet this week.
So I stepped in and talked with them this morning. They're having some issues with the ground underneath, some running into some unexpected things for their footings, but really we should be 2 to 3 weeks, maybe. It's hard to say.
It's just people ask me about that all the time.
Yeah, they are. The main section is somewhat up, so they're making progress.
Yeah, I mean, I could see like the stuff was sitting there, so I knew it was kind of coming. And then I live on the east side of Iowa City, kind of right over by ACT, and our neighborhood is like in flames over all the trees that were planted and then subsequently removed on Scott.
Yeah, I
so
can address
do we
that.
have a reason why that happened?
I can address that. That's a responsibility that still needs to be fulfilled by that contractor, and we're working with them through the process of replacement of those trees. It's part of the contract agreement that they have to replace what did not survive, and unfortunately, a large number did not survive. So rather than leaving them standing in the dead state all summer, especially part of that project was in the Mackinac Village area as well. So instead of having a dead tree standing in front of everyone's yard all summer, they went ahead and removed those, cut them off at the base, and they will be going back to replant them.
Because it's not a few trees. I mean, it's like 50 trees or something. I mean, it's like a norm. So you're saying that like
it's hundreds of trees.
all the trees that were planted on Scott, I thought most of them were kind of baby trees, or within a year or so, they all died.
A large number, and we're working through that with the contractor. It's their responsibility to go back and
water them?
It was our first time with that contractor. We did water them,
We
but
did.
we had
Okay, well,
a huge
those are
number
not good
die.
trees if that many of them died. I mean, I would see like a few, but that was ridiculous. I mean, it's like 50 trees or something.
There's a large percentage, probably about 30%, that they either have already replaced or still need to replace in
Okay,
the
well,
project.
they should come to Scott Boulevard because they have not been replaced yet. And then one more, I thought I had another question. Maybe not. Okay, I'm good.
One question I had for Whispering Meadows, are there, just once the playground is fully installed, are there any activities, planned for the community, ribbon cutting, and if you could just maybe speak to some of those. And I just don't know if those types of events happen at all the parks or playgrounds when the renovations happen, but I think it would be nice to help build the community.
Yeah. We used to, for a number of years, try to do ribbon cuttings. They kind of fell away during COVID. People didn't come.
Yep.
But that one being kind of a park that we're reintroducing, I would suspect it would probably be next spring because we won't really have the planting in this fall. It'll be sometime next spring, possibly. It's probably not large enough for a party in the park, but maybe a wreck and roll or something could definitely go there.
Right. And then also, that's super exciting about the additional grants and funding. So, and the plan for the riverfront crossing is additional trees. I know water was an issue in the past there as well. So, I was curious if that's like variety of trees have been taken into account and kind of what are the plans for that going forward?
Yep, good question. Yes, not only variety, but size when they're planted. So a lot of the trees that were planted initially were 2.5 to 3 inch at a diameter at your chest height, which is quite large. A lot more chance of transplant shock. So these will not be that big. And they will also be have water bags around them, and we have a plan to water those. And that's part of the grant as well as having a plan set in place for maintenance of those. Yeah, good question though. We still expect, with any project you have a certain number of trees that just don't make it through transplant, but we're hoping for pretty good success this time.
Also going back to Whispering Meadows, this may have been addressed in a previous meeting and slipped my mind. There was also plans to redo the plantings there to update the quality of that. Is that done? Is it ongoing? Is it in the future?
Good question. It is ongoing as well. So that is part of REAP grant, and it has not been closed out yet. They have done a lot of work with that grant already. A lot of plugs went in, thousands of plugs, so small baby plants. And seeding will still happen, continued. Most of the invasive and undesirable woody species have been removed as part of that project, so it looks a lot more open now. It'll give the prairie species and wetland species that were intended to be there a lot better chance going forward. So, yeah, good question.
All right. Any other questions for Tyler? All right, thank you so very much. As far as chair's report, just wanted to report on the tree advisory committee. So thank Melissa as well for serving on that committee and for all the work that she puts in, as well as the rest of and Tyler and the rest of the committee that way. So they met this past Friday as well, and to kind of review and kind of the current process. So it's a great opportunity that way. With that, we'll go around as far as if there's other agenda items, and maybe we'll start with Connie over here.
I don't have any. Just to say thanks, like the staff, you guys it's a lot.
Yep.
And a lot for all, and just so much information to take in, and I just have respect for what you guys are doing.
Yep. Brianna?
Nothing, thank you.
Melissa?
Nothing here.
Missy?
I wanted to revisit the house that I cannot think of the name of. Did we ever hear anything from council about convening any?
Ashton?
Butler House.
Butler House. The council has not addressed it since they were given information about it, so it's essentially tabled.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
April?
I guess I just want to restate about being glad that people do speak up when they have something to say for the people that were here, but also keeping in mind that when things are going right, it's less likely that people are going to have something to say because they don't have anything to complain about. So I think that's the reason why a lot of people at Mercer probably don't, is because things are going the way that they want them. And it's going to be different in every area.
Thank you. I was super excited to hear about the pedal and paddle as well. And I still would like to understand a bit more just about the trail system kind of in the community for a future agenda. So I'd love to understand kind of plan going forward as well, especially with the bike-centric as well as some of the other goals for sustainability. It would be great to hear more about that as a future item as well.
Through the master plan, we can do things like that.
Yeah. And I too just would like to echo just our thanks and appreciation for all that staff does. I know we all enjoy the parks and are just grateful for the work that you do and for the facilities, and just very appreciative. And just want to say thank you for that as well. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Is that seconded?
Second.
All right, by Missy. All in favor say aye. Motion adjourned.